Hello, I'm doing a movie review, and the movie I want to review is Dead Ringers. Now, Dead Ringers came out in 1988, and the film is co-written and directed by David Cronenberg. Now, I'm a huge David Cronenberg fan. Now, prior to this, David Cronenberg directed films like Scanners, The Brood, Shivers, Videodrome, The Dead Zone, and he directed the 1986 remake of The Fly. After this, he would go on to direct movies like Naked Lunch, Crash, and A History of Violence. Now, when this movie came out, a lot of people said that this film was a huge departure for David Cronenberg, but it really wasn't. Like, thematically, I think this movie is very similar to films like Videodrome and Cronenberg's 86 remake of The Fly. It's just not as in-your-face as those movies were. But there are a lot of aspects of this movie that I think are pure Cronenberg. For example, one of the main characters of this movie, Beverly Mantle, at a certain point in the movie is really starting to break with reality, and he goes to this artist asking him to design these gynecology tools for operating on mutant women, as he puts it, and when this artist designs the tools for him, they look very biomechanical almost, and there's something very insect-like about them as well, and that is a pure Cronenberg element. And there's also a really creepy and really disturbing dream sequence in this film, which if you see this movie and you see this dream sequence, you would go, yeah, that's Cronenberg all the way. So I really don't get why people said that this film was a big departure for David Cronenberg, because honestly, I think the film is pure Cronenberg. I think the major difference between this and Cronenberg's earlier films is a lot of Cronenberg's earlier films were really about the breakdown of the human body. This film is more so about the breakdown of the human mind. However, there are a lot of aspects of this movie that do deal heavily with the human body. Now, Dead Ringers is based on a book called Twins by Bari and Jack Geasland. Now, I never read the book, so I don't know what the major differences between this movie and the book are. Now, if I were to speculate on why this movie was called Dead Ringers instead of Twins, like the title of the book, if I were to take a wild guess, I would say it would have something to do with the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito film Twins, which came out this same year. If I were to take a wild guess as to why this movie was called Dead Ringers instead of Twins. Although, let's face it, Dead Ringers is a much cooler title than Twins. Now, both this movie and the book Twins, which this movie is based on, were actually based on a real case. They were based on the case of Stuart and Cyril Marcus, who were actual twin brothers who were also both gynecologists, and in 1975, they were both found dead in their apartment. Now, this is not a biopic, this is a fictional movie, but it is loosely based on this real case. Now, I read up a little bit on the actual case that this movie is based on, and apparently the events that you see transpire in the film actually aren't too far off from the actual events that led up to the Marcus twins' death. Now, Dead Ringers is an excellent movie. If you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly recommend it, and I also highly recommend this movie if you're a David Cronenberg fan. Now, the film is arguably more reality-based than most of David Cronenberg's movies, because typically David Cronenberg Cronenberg's movies really go off into, like, the fantastical. This one is a little more reality-based, but thematically, this is a Cronenberg movie through and through. Now, the plot of Dead Ringers is, it's about these twin brothers named Elliot and Beverly Mantle, who are also gynecologists, and they're so close that they share pretty much everything together. They share the same profession, they share the same apartment, and they even share the same women. Like, Elliot would seduce women, and once he gets tired of these women, he just passes them along to his twin brother, who once again looks exactly like him, and the women that they're dating don't notice the difference and don't realize that they're basically fucking two different people, which of course is wrong, and the character of Beverly is a lot shyer and much more introverted, and he kind of gets that what they're doing is wrong, but Elliot, it's not that he doesn't get that what they're doing is wrong, it's just he kind of doesn't care, like he's kind of a douchebag. But eventually they do this to an actress named Claire, but eventually Claire realizes that they're brothers, that they're twin brothers, and she confronts them about this, and she later on forgives Beverly, because Beverly's the one that she genuinely loves, and Beverly and this actress Claire, they develop a relationship with each other, and you realize that Beverly genuinely loves this woman. But things start going wrong in their relationship, and this causes Beverly to become severely depressed, and he eventually becomes a drug addict, and really this whole film is really about this character's descent into madness because of his drug addiction. And because of his drug addiction, Beverly starts getting in trouble at the hospital where they work, and Elliot is constantly having to cover for him. But not only is the film about the breakdown of Beverly's mind because of his drug addiction, but it's also about the destruction of the relationship between Beverly and Elliot, and basically the whole breakdown of their relationship. But the film is really a character study on these two brothers, and because of how close they are, they both pretty much end up going down the same path by the end of the movie, really because they are so attached to each other. And I found the relationship between Elliot and Beverly to be genuinely moving, and even though the character of Elliot is kind of a douchebag, he's still a good person, and he still genuinely cares about his brother, and just to see, like, this, both characters' descent by the end of the movie is really kind of heartbreaking. But Dead Ringers is a genuinely creepy and disturbing film, but it's also a genuinely moving and genuinely heartbreaking film as well. Now, there is so much in this movie that is so up Cronenberg's alley. Like I mentioned before, when the character of Beverly, he goes to that artist asking him to design for him the gynecology tools for operating on mutant women. Like, if you actually see those tools in the movie, like, they're totally something David Cronenberg would have come up with. And then there's all the sexuality in the film, which, if you know Cronenberg's work, you'll realize that that's Cronenberg all the way. Also, in the movie, when Beverly starts to break with reality, he starts to actually genuinely become scared of the women that both him and his brother operate on, or, like, he starts to notice, like, little things about these women that cause him to think that they're all mutants or something, and he seems to be genuinely horrified by their bodies, and he starts talking about how, like, they look fine on the outside, but inside it's all wrong. So there's so much in this movie that is really about the human body that, once again, like, if you know David Cronenberg's body of work, you know that this film is a pure Cronenberg film. Now, in the film, Jeremy Irons plays the characters of Elliot and Beverly, and he plays them so well in this film. He plays these two different characters so seamlessly that you almost believe that these are two actors playing these two characters. Like, you almost forget that it's literally one person playing these two different people. And there are so many scenes in this movie where you see these two characters together, and obviously they used editing to make it look like it's two different people, but the editing is so seamless that, once again, you really do buy that these are two different people. But yeah, once again, Dead Ringers is a great movie. I would definitely rank this among one of David Cronenberg's best films. I don't like it as much as Videodrome or The Dead Zone, because those are my two favorite David Cronenberg movies, but I would say this is definitely up there as one of his best movies. Like, it's definitely right up there with The Brood, Scanners, and The Fly. So yeah, that's my review on Dead Ringers, and bye.